Hello, people. Welcome to the pre-show. We don't actually have a pre-show tonight. Just want to let you know that we're going to hop right into the podcast. I did take advantage of playing that a little bit so I could get caught up on some things here. So tonight's topic is, where is it here? Astrotheology, codes from the Bible or codes of the Bible, and hopefully we get into some Atlantis technology. So welcome, everybody. Sit back, enjoy, and we'll see you in a few minutes.
Tonight we will go deep into the realm of the unknown and question everything as we search for the truth. We will explore the possibility of countless phenomena within the ultra-spectrum, and together we will learn that it is all connected. This podcast is brought to you by the Experiencers Support Association, and it is a live stream broadcast. If you have a question, send me a super chat or become a YouTube member. This podcast is brought to you by the Experiencers Support Association. Take a seat, relax, get ready, and welcome to Beyond the Tinfoil Hat.
All right. Hello, everybody. Today is Thursday, February 17th, 2022, and I, Ryan Stacey, am your host this evening. I'm a licensed private investigator, citizen journalist, and the director of investigations for the Experiencers Support Association. To remember to super chat, click the $sign next to your name in the comment box, and if you're in the observation deck, we are inside the Experiencer Hall. So go put your comments in there, and I will see it in the chat box. So tonight's theme is astrotheology, codes of the Bible, and Atlantis tech. However, it's also a special theme night because our guest today is going to be doing a presentation. So we're going to allow him to present his situation or his story and his research tonight in a different format, and I'm happy to get into that. So our guest for season 4, episode 6 is Micah Dank. Micah T. Dank was born in 1983 in Oceanside, New York. From a young age, he had wanted to be a writer, coming from a family of writers. His father was a producer and radio news editor at CBS News in Manhattan, and his grandfather was a producer at CBS News. Micah was an actor in high school and became interested in writing from his 12th grade English teacher, Russell Reid. From there, he majored in English at SUNY Albany and transferred down to, CUNY Hunter College in Manhattan to earn his bachelor's degree in language, literature, and criticism. It wasn't until he moved to Boston for a new job that he became interested in all the esoteric sciences, including astrology, astrotheology, prevalent through his book series. Micah is an author with his new series, Into the Rabbit Hole. His first book is Into the Veil, which he compared to Dan Brown's Davinci Code. And Micah explores astrology and the hidden codes in the Bible and how it relates to what is real, what is possible related to politics, conspiracies, fringe medicine, history, language, and what it means to survive in these times. So, Micah, put on your tinfoil hat. We're about to go, I'm going to say, into a rabbit hole, which we normally say down, but you have a book, Into the Rabbit Hole. So
Into the rabbit hole,
Into
yeah.
the rabbit hole. So we'll put that in. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Thanks for joining us today. Hello, everybody in the chat. So before we get into your PowerPoint, do you want to maybe just tell everybody how you got here? Just give me a quick rundown of how you got to this point right here.
So I moved in 2000. I'm from Long Island, and I moved in 2013 to Boston for a new job. I moved there with an ex who I'm no longer with, but we had an apartment in a really nice town and a really nice place. And I think the iPad had just come out, and I was 29, 30 years old at the time. And she'd be in the living room watching TV, and I'd be on the iPad just going down rabbit holes. And I came across someone speaking about astrotheology, and it just blew my mind, and I realized that's what I wanted to do, is I wanted to teach this. So I studied it for a very, very long time, and then I was able to start making some connections and teach it on my own. And that's what I did. And then from that point, I decided I was going to write a book series. And then from that point, I decided I wasn't just going to write a book series, but it was going to be a fiction set of thrillers so that I could teach the information through that. So you can kind of soft red pill people because, you know, they have to buy into the reality that you present them in the book series. Whereas if someone picked up a nonfiction and they didn't like it, they'd put it down. I suppose it could be the same for fiction books, but people tend to give it more of a chance.
Mm-hmm.
So that's basically what I did. And I've been teaching it since.
Okay. And you're going to present tonight what you've learned through that, I suppose.
I'm going to present, well, some of it is I've learned. Most of it is my own work.
Okay. Perfect.
Okay. Now, do you come from a religious or a biblical background?
Personally, I have started in a religious background. I have since found questions of my own, and I constantly question things. I take no offense to anything that comes forward. I don't subscribe to anything particularly. I accept all faiths and all ideas. I'm trying to piece everything together myself. The audience, is a mixed bag as well. I mean, why do you ask?
Because this is going to change a lot of what you see on things.
Yeah, no, I kind of figured that, which is kind of why I was hoping I would be able to interview on some of these things. But you know what? Maybe we'll play some things in our segment at the end that you don't realize what we're doing. I think you might enjoy, but we'll see where this goes. So do you want me to share your screen then?
Here, can you see this now?
Yep, here we go.
All right, can you still see me?
Yeah, we can see you.
Okay. So I start by saying, employ your time in improving yourself by other men's writings, so that you shall come easily by what others have labored hard for. That's Socrates. And it's true, because I've been putting about 10 years worth of research that I've kind of condensed into this 112 slide presentation that I want to show you guys. This stuff is super interesting and it's wild. Now, the Bible. The scriptures are metaphysical, astrological, anatomical, alchemical, spiritual, esoteric, and mythology. Those are the 7 sciences that make up the Bible. I only talk about astrology, but they are not literal, historical, reality, or original. Okay, you have to remember that as you go through this. This is astrotheology in the Bible. As you see the zodiac wheel here, Cancer's at the top, Capricorn's at the bottom. This is how the zodiac wheel should look. Astrotheology is the mythology behind the zodiac, and it's the mythology behind everything in the Bible, the Quran, the Enuma Elish, the Epic of Gilgamesh, the Code of Hammurabi, all the Gnostic texts. And what it does is it goes back 40,000 years ago to the Lascaux Caves. Now, the Lascaux Caves were these caves in France that a couple teenagers found, okay? In much the same way that the kid found the Dead Sea Scrolls when he went into a cave. These teenagers went into this cave and in Lascaux, and they saw something like this. Well, this is just telling you, world's oldest cave paintings show humans understood complex astronomy 40,000 years ago. Okay. They saw things like this on the back wall. Now, the bull is Taurus, the lion is Leo, and the horse is Sagittarius. They made that connection when they saw that there was the bull, the lion, and the horse. Okay, what they didn't know at the time, which they soon found out, was they brought in an astronomer and an astrologer in. They carbon dated the wall. The wall came out to about 40,000 years, plus or minus 5,000 years. Okay. Now, carbon dating is actually accurate up to 50,000 years. Anything past that, it's not. But what they did was they saw this, and so they carbon dated the wall, came out 40,000 years. They had a computer, okay, because we have the technology to do that. So what they did was they rewound the sky back 40,000 years to see what it would look like. And lo and behold, when they printed out what the star patterns were and they superimposed it over to the cave, all the constellations lined up. Okay, so we've, as a society, as a humanity, have understood the zodiac for 40,000 years. It is by far the oldest science. Okay, now there's questions in the Bible, the generic questions that everybody asks. How was Jesus able to heal the blind? How he walked on water? How he turned water into wine? Why he had 12 disciples? Why he was betrayed with a kiss by Judas? Why he was dead for 3 days? Why is his birthday on December 25th? All of that is astrology. And I'm going to explain that to you.
Okay.
Genesis 1:14 says, let lights appear in the sky to separate the day from the night. Let them be signs to mark the seasons, days, and years. And that's basically what the zodiac is. Now, what I'm going to do is, in order for you to understand how I read the Bible, I have to explain to you the 12 signs of the Bible, of the zodiac. Okay? So there's keywords in each sign that make sense based on what the sign is. Okay, so I'm going to go over that with you real quick.
Okay.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So Aquarius is the first sign that I talk about. The first sign in the zodiac is actually Aries. I talk about Aquarius first because it's kind of like January. It's our new year. Okay? The first sign is represented by the man with the water pitcher. So whenever you hear words in the Bible like son of man, man, baptism, because if you look at the picture on the right, this is literally how you baptize a child. Water pitcher, fountain, stream, river, pond, lake, creek, bodies of water, they're talking about Aquarius. And the same thing for Pisces, Pisces being the 2 fish in the water. Okay, so the first 2 signs that I talk about, you have to differentiate in the zodiac whether or not something is a Pisces or an Aquarius based on the water. And there's keys to do that. I'll show you that. Aries is the ram. And in Aries, you have March 21st, which is the spring equinox. It's a 12-hour day and a 12-hour night. It's also the Passover, or the passing over of the sun over the equator and back on its way to its height in the summer solstice. So the Passover is that in astrology. In Judaism, the Passover is the angel of death passes over all the households that don't have the ram or the lamb. Aries, the ram. They don't have the ram's blood on the door, the lamb's blood on the door. The firstborn son gets killed. In Christianity, the Passover is changed and it becomes the resurrection of God's son. See, this is all pagan, okay? This all goes back to that. But basically, the main purpose that I want you to take out of this is the play on words between son, S-O-N, and S-U-N. Okay.
One letter difference, but you change that letter, it's got a whole different meaning.
Right. So the idea is that Jesus is the Son of God, S-U-N, not the S-O-N, and I'm going to make the case for that today. He's a solar deity. No different than Horus was, no different than many of the ancient ones before him. So whenever you hear, because Aries is the ram, whenever you hear ram, lamb, shepherd, ram's horn, sheep, you're talking about Aries.
Okay.
Then Taurus is the bull. Now, when you look at the sky and you see Taurus during the season where it's supposed to be, you know you need to put the plow on the bull so that you can plant the seed so you can harvest in Virgo and Libra. It was simple. The ancients looked up to the sky, they'd see the bull, and they'd know that you have to put the plow on the bull because it's time to plant.
Right.
So whenever you hear bull, ox, calf, or cow, cow being the female bull, you're talking about Taurus. Gemini is the twins. It's the story of Castor and Pollux Troy, whose sister was Helen of Troy. It's the story of Achilles. So whenever you hear twins or brothers, you're talking about Gemini. Then Cancer is the crab, and it's the sideways moving creature. So what the sun does is, starting on December 25th, it rises a degree on its axis. The next day, it rises another degree, another degree, another degree. It keeps rising an additional degree. The days get longer, the nights get shorter. On June 21st, it stops because that's the summer solstice. That's its height. That's the longest day of the year. Then for 3 days, it walks to the side. It stays at that height, just like the crab does. So it walks sideways for 3 days. Then on June 25th, it drops a degree. And then it continues to drop a degree every single day, okay, until it hits December 21st. And then that's the winter solstice. And then it walks sideways for 3 days, and it comes back to life December 25th. The sun follows this pattern every single year. It always has. So whenever you hear crab or beetle, the crab in the Egyptian time was known as the scarab, you're talking about Cancer.
Okay.
And Leo is the lion. He's the king. He's the king of the jungle. The ruling planet of Leo is actually the sun. So when they're talking about the kingdom of heaven on earth, they're literally talking about the sun being in its ruling planet. I promise you this will all start to make sense as I start putting it together. But basically, whenever you hear lion, lioness, or cub, you think of Leo. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Virgo is the woman holding the wheat stalk. So remember before when we said that you plant in Taurus? Well, you plant in Taurus, and the virgins would cultivate the wheat in Virgo in order to make the bread for the year. So whenever you hear virgin, wheat, grain, seed, barley, corn, grainy things that you cultivate, you're talking about Virgo.
Okay.
Then Libra is the justice. It's the scales. It's the balance. It's the just one. The reason it's the justice is because it judges God's sun as it passes over the fall equinox and begins its descent into winter, into cold, into death. Libra is also wine season, which is when you plant the grapes in Taurus, you press the wine in Libra. Ask any Italian. You make wine in September.
Okay.
It's also olive oil season. You collect the olives and you press them in Libra. So whenever you hear law, judge, justice, the just one, divorce, marriage, court, wine, vineyard, wine press, olive oil, you're talking about Libra. Then Scorpio is the scorpion, and he is known as the betrayer, because when a scorpion bites you, it leaves an imprint in your skin that looks like a pair of lips. And it's why the mafia has the kiss of death. And it's why Jesus was betrayed by Judas with a kiss. So the sun is judged in Libra, and it's betrayed in Scorpio, finally in Sagittarius. This is where the man with the bow and the arrow on the horse shoot the sun and inflict further punishment on the sun, effectively killing it. Why? Because on December 21st, as I've mentioned, the sun is at its lowest point. It cannot rise any lower. It was considered dead. It would rise in the morning on December 21st, and it wouldn't even clear the horizon. So the ancients used to say that it was dead.
Right.
Then what it does is it remains at that lowest level for 3 days, like the crab. It walks sideways for 3 days. So that's why God's sun was dead. And then that's why God's sun was dead for 3 days. Then on December 25th, or the birth of God's son, it rises up again, and it comes back to life. The sun is born again.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever you hear horse, bow and arrow, spear, horseman, you're talking about Sagittarius. Finally is Capricorn, who's the goat because he likes to climb the mountain. And if you look at the zodiac wheel, Capricorn's at the bottom. Capricorn starts to climb. If you put a sun on the wheel, rising at a degree a day alongside the wheel, it starts to climb in Capricorn. So it climbs the mountain, just like the goat climbs the mountain. So those are my those are the 12. Well, they're not mine, but those are the 12 signs. I've given you keywords. I'm going to keep reinforcing them to you. Do you have any general questions about them before I get started?
I don't see any questions in the comments, but as for myself, I am quite familiar with this ideology, and I've noticed that that synchronicity as well in myself. We do have, I don't know, Dave Percella, you're in the audience. You are an astrologer. I don't know if you have any feedback on that, but if you want to throw some comments in, we'll throw them in. But other than that, I'm good to go. We do. I don't know if it's possible, since you're manning it, if you could go full screen for the slideshow, so the guests could see it a little, your slides a little bit clearer. I do have a comment about that, if that's possible.
It's not letting me.
Okay. No worries. I'm just I am asking on behalf of the asker. All right, our resident astrologer says looks good. Perfect.
Okay.
This
Resident
is his expertise,
astrologer,
not my. Yeah, well, it's just for our team, but this is not my forte, so I'm listening. I'm absorbing.
Right. Okay. So no big deal. Now, there are names given in church for Jesus. Jesus is given nicknames in church. The Lamb of God, the Lion of Judah, things of that nature. They're all astrology based. And I'm going to go through it. Now, remember, Jesus is the sun, S-U-N, in this mythology. Mm-hmm. So when the sun is in Capricorn, the sign of the goat, he's called the scapegoat of Israel. When the sun is in Aquarius, he's called the son of man. When the sun is in Pisces, he's called the fisherman of men. Pisces, the two fish. It's also why he feeds the masses with two fish. He's the Lamb of God, or the Ram in Aries. He's the Lion of Judah, also known as Leo. The lady holding the stalk of wheat, Virgo. He's born of a virgin, and he's called the bread of life. Libra is the scale of justice. He's known as the just one. He's betrayed in Scorpio. He dies in Sagittarius on December 21st. It's also why he's worshipped on the sun day. Okay? Now I'm going to draw your attention to the picture on the left, which I found on the internet, which you can too. You're going to see the sun behind his head, the two fingers up like this. You're going to see the heart outside the body and the crown of thorns. Okay? Sun is always behind Jesus because he represents the sun. Any picture of Jesus, the sun is behind his head. Sometimes there's a Knights Templar cross in the sun, but more than likely it's just usually the sun, even in baby pictures. Now, the two fingers up like this is an ancient Kemetic peace sign. This is the original peace sign because the fingers are together. This is this John Lennon peace sign. This is actually the British V for victory war sign. The fingers are separate. So this is actually a war sign. This is the original peace sign. So whenever you see him or Baphomet or any of these, Satan or any of them like this, they're telling you they're coming peacefully. Now, the white Jesus picture, the face of him, is actually a guy named Caesar Borgia, who was the bastard son of Pope Alexander VI. Before then, there was no picture of him, and it was decided his picture would be the face of. Okay, that's where we get his face from him. Okay, because this happened in the 1500s. Now, about 80 years before Pope Alexander was Pope, okay, he comes from the Borgia family, which is one of the 13 Illuminati families. About 80 years or so, the printing press came out. So they were able to mass produce this face of him, this picture of him. And Caesar Borgia was horrible. He killed his brother. He slept with his sister. He was horrible. And he was the bastard son of the Pope because popes used to have kids. They just never got married. That's why they were all bastards. Now, the crown of thorns wraps around the heart on the outside, and the heart is always on the outside, represents the rays of the sun. The heart outside the body represents the toroidal field or the torus field. Looks like this if you've ever seen one. It's the electromagnetic field of the heart. It looks like an apple with you being the core. It goes out 6 feet, circumventing your body. Okay, that's why the elites try and keep you more than 6 feet apart during the pandemic, so you can't interact with anyone.
That makes sense. Interesting. Yeah, I never thought of it that way, but that I can't deny that idea.
Yeah. I mean, there's no other idea why it would be 6 feet. That's such an arbitrary number, but it is if you know the electromagnetic field. Some people call it an aura. There's words. When you're combining with someone, it's like this. Okay, this is what it looks like when you're interacting with someone. Now, the guy on the left here is Jesus. The guy on the right is an early depiction of Caesar Borgia. You can see where he gets his facial similarities from.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's the guy. Now we'll start decoding some phrases, okay, and how the Bible was encoded. If I were to say to you, pride comes before the fall, you've heard that before, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain that to your listeners?
I could interpret it, what it probably comes before the fall. So, like the fall of what though? I really don't know the context of what it was meant, but I hear it being used out of context. So I don't think I could explain it properly. So I feel
All
like
right,
you're
so
going to tell me the
basically,
right way,
if you're too
anyways.
boastful or too prideful, then you're gonna fall.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is. But do you know what a group of lions is called?
A pride.
Exactly. A group of
Yeah.
lions is called a pride. Pride is the
Yeah.
lion. Lion is Leo. Leo is in July and August.
So the
July and August
Leo
come
before the fall. So there's
Okay.
a place in time calendar. Yeah. Okay. I'm
All right.
tracking.
Remember, this is all about a calendar. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in the book of Micah, he predicts that the Savior will come from a town called Bethlehem. Okay. Now, each zodiac sign is called a house, an eon, an age, a mansion. There's many different words for it. Okay. But you, Bethlehem Ephrathah, though you are small among the clans of Judah, out of you will come for me one who will be ruler over Israel, whose origins are from ancient times. However, Bethlehem in Hebrew is a combination of two words. It's bet, which means house, and lechem, which means bread. So the house of bread. I just got finished telling you that the house of bread was Virgo, the lady with the wheat stalk. And this is the virgin with the wheat stalk. So what he's really saying is the Savior will come from Bethlehem. He's saying the Savior will come from a virgin, Virgo.
Yeah.
Okay, this is why all the ancient gods were born of virgins. Is because
and then the house of bread. So I guess like the zodiac house, they call them houses as well.
Right.
Right. Okay. I'm tracking. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. All right. Now I'm going to read you Deuteronomy 32, and I've highlighted all the key words. You're going to see all the signs here, and we're going to go over it. Deuteronomy 32. He gave them honey from the cliffs and olive oil. Well, olives are Libra. Right? That's when you press them from the rocky ground. He gave people butter from the herd and milk from the flock. He gave them lambs, which are Aries, and goats, which is Capricorn. They had the best rams, that's Aries, from Bashan, and the finest wheat, that's Virgo, the lady with the wheat stalk. They drank the best wine made from the juice from red grapes. Wine is Libra again. But Jeshurun became fat and kicked like a bull. That's Taurus, the bull. So there's 8 signs in this one passage right here.
Okay.
There's 2 that I haven't really gotten into with you yet, though. He gave them honey from the cliffs. In the sign Cancer, there's a group of stars called the Beehive Cluster. It's known as an asterism. It's a small knit group of stars. Okay, so that's where the honey comes from, the Beehive Cluster. It's a metaphor. Okay. Then he gave people milk from the flock. The milk would come from the Milky Way galaxy. The center of the Milky Way galaxy is in Sagittarius. So your land from Cancer to Sagittarius is your land of the milk and the honey. Okay, it's in the heavens. This is star poetry they're talking about. Okay, it's not a place on Earth. Now, I'm going to show you how to start to decode within the Bible with the zodiac wheel. The Mount of Olives. Jesus led his disciples to the Mount of Olives after his last Passover so he could teach them a few more things, pray, then wait for Judas to betray him. While walking to the Mount of Olives, he gave the parable of the true vine. So Passover takes place in Aries, which if you look at the zodiac wheels on the left, where right after that he walks to the Mount of Olives. So you're going to walk from Aries to Libra for the olives. Those are opposing signs. You're going to find lots of connecting signs and opposing signs. Okay, that's how you know these patterns were directly put in there on purpose. So you go from Aries and Passover to Libra, the Mount of Olives. Then they're waiting for the betrayal. Well, I told you the betrayal was Scorpio, the betrayer, which is the next sign over from Libra. So you go across and then over. Okay, it's following a pattern. Okay, now while he was in Libra, okay, because he's waiting for the betrayal, so he's not in Scorpio, he's still in Libra. He gave the parable of the true vine, or vineyard, or wine press, whatever you want to call it. It's still Libra. Okay, so you see how this works?
So, I'm listening. So you caught me here. So Passover, you gotta catch me up here. So like I'm completely blown here. So I'm trying to pay attention. All right.
So what was your question?
No, I don't have a question. You asked me if I was paying attention. I was just
No, I didn't say you're paying attention. I said, do you have any questions?
Oh, do I have any questions? Okay, no. Obviously, I'm just right into it. I'm good.
Okay, so let's go into the book of Revelation. Let's jump around the Bible. The first living creature was like a lion. The second was like an ox. The third had a face like a man. The fourth was like a flying eagle. Okay?
Mhm.
The first living creature was like a lion. That's Leo. The second was like an ox. That's Taurus. The third had a face like a man. That's Aquarius. The fourth was like a flying eagle. In astrology, the Scorpio is the belly-crawling creature. It's the lowest form of life on Earth. Its evolved form is the eagle. And the eagle's evolved form becomes the phoenix. So the eagle becomes the Scorpio, okay? And you can look up this astrological thing if you want. I don't usually go too deep into it, but the scorpion crawls on its belly. It's the lowest form of life on Earth. The eagle is the highest flying form of life on Earth, so it evolves into that. Now, Leo, Taurus, Aquarius, and Scorpio are the 4 fixed signs of the zodiac. They're called fixed signs because they're fixed in their season. The animals that they had just mentioned, including the man. Leo is in the middle of summer. Taurus, spring. Aquarius, winter. Scorpio, or the eagle, fall. Now, if you look at the zodiac wheel, the lion, Leo, man, Aquarius, those are opposing signs. The ox, Taurus, the eagle, Scorpio, those are opposing signs. It makes an X like this through the zodiac wheel. It's a perfect celestial alignment of the 4 fixed signs.
Okay.
Let's go another one. Revelation 12. A great sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet and a crown of 12 stars on her head. She was pregnant and cried out in pain as she was about to give birth. Then another sign appeared in heaven, an enormous red dragon with 7 heads, 10 horns, and 7 crowns on its heads. Its tail swept a third of the stars out of the sky and flung them to earth. A woman clothed with the sun is the sun clothed in Virgo. So Virgo being the woman. It's just a metaphor for the sun being in Virgo. If the sun's in Virgo, the moon will be at her feet. So the zodiac is 12 signs. There's a 24-hour day clock, so the sun spends 2 hours a day in each sign. If the sun is in Virgo, which is between 4 and 6 p.m. every day, the moon will be down because the sun is still up. The moon will be at her feet. If the moon is up, the sun is at her feet. So it's just another metaphor. Another sign appeared in heaven, an enormous dragon. Its tail swept a third of the stars out of the sky and flung them to earth. So the constellation Draco is the dragon. Its tail goes from Aries to Sagittarius, which is 4/12 of the signs, or 1/3 of the stars out of the sky. These are just celestial metaphors, as I'm showing you over and over again. They're not meant to be taken literally. These are just metaphors. Are you starting to see that?
Yeah, no, I do see the connection. My brain's going elsewhere because I'm thinking of other things and I'm connecting to it too, and I don't want to jump the gun. So you're leading me down a rabbit hole that I'm finding very fascinating.
Matthew 10:16. Behold, I send you forth as sheep amidst the wolves. The sheep is Aries. The wolf is the constellation Lupus, who borders the Libra line. Libra and Aries are opposing signs. This is another pattern, opposing signs, connecting signs. So I've given examples of astrotheology in the Old Testament as well as the New Testament. I've been accused of cherry-picking verses from the Bible to prove a point. Let's take a much longer passage and see if we could decode it as well. So this, excuse me a sec. I'm sorry. Excuse me a sec.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay. All right. So this is the part where we talk about Job. You remember Job?
I do. I'm not really. Don't quiz me on the Bible. I don't know much.
I'm not going to quiz you, but he was basically.
Yeah, I'm aware.
He was a righteous man who was given everything. He had land, family, money, animals. Satan goes up to God and says he's only faithful to you because he has everything. So God and Satan make a bet. God tells Satan, you can take away whatever you want from him. You just can't take his life. Little by little, his family starts to die. His animals start to run away and die. His land dries up. At one point, he's just sitting on a rock. He's still faithful to God, but he cries out to God. God actually replies to him. What I'm going to read you is God's response. Now, the first sentence is what God says in the Bible. The second sentence is what it means.
Okay.
So Job 38:32, he says, can you lead forth the Mazzaroth? The Mazzaroth is literally the zodiac. Okay, the Mazzaroth over time becomes Mazalot, which survives in Judaism today as Mazel Tov, which means good fortune from the stars. So what is the Lord's challenge to Job? He says, can you bind the chains of the Pleiades? Can you loosen Orion's belt? Those are obvious star metaphors.
Mm-hmm.
Can you bring forth the constellation in their seasons or lead out the bear with its cubs? The constellations are the zodiac above. The bear and its cubs are Ursa Major, the Great Bear, and Ursa Minor, part of the Big Dipper.
Dipper. Yeah.
Who can tip over the water jars of heavens? Well, that's the man
Aquarius.
tipping over the water jar. That's Aquarius. Do you hunt the prey for the lioness and satisfy the hunger for the lions? That's Leo. Who provides food from the raven? For the raven. The constellation Corvus, which means raven and borders on Virgo. Do you watch where the doe bears her fawn? Mariga, meaning deer, is located in Orion. Who let the wild donkey go free? That's a Celis borealis, which means donkey, and is located in Cancer. Will the wild ox consent to serve you? That's Taurus. The wings of the ostrich flap joyfully. That's Lambda Achille or Al-Thaliman, which means two ostriches in Arabic. Do you give the horse its strength? It laughs at fear, afraid of nothing. It does not shy away from the sword. The quiver rattles against its side along with the flashing spear and lance. That's Sagittarius with the bow and the arrow. Does the eagle soar at your command and build its nest on high? That's Aquila, which is the Latin name for eagle and is a constellation a few degrees above the celestial equator. Finally, he says, can you pull in Leviathan with a fish hook? Leviathan, if you know anything, was the fish god. So that's Pisces, the fish. So again, this is all star metaphors. These are all star poetry, you know, as everything is.
I have a question from a member. If you want to take a question. So Serena Dracis says, how do the original texts translate into English analogs? Were they Pleiades or Orion in the original Aramaic?
They were. In fact, it goes back to Sumerian even. Yeah, these are translated faithfully. The words are translated faithfully.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
The original text translated, yeah.
All right. You want to keep sharing your screen? Your screen kind of went blank. Did you do that?
Yeah. Hold on a sec.
That's all right.
Is that better?
Yep, there you go.
The book of Psalms, Psalm 104. He sends forth springs in their valleys. The wild donkeys quench their thirst. He causes the grass to grow for the cattle, and wine which makes man's heart glad, so that he may make his face glisten with oil. The high mountains are for the wild goats. He made the moon for the seasons. The sun knows the place of its setting. The young lions roar after their prey. Just going in order of the psalm. The springs are Aquarius. The water, Aquarius, the water. The wild donkeys are Celis borealis, which is in Cancer. I told you that. The cattle is Taurus, the bull. The wine is Libra. The oil is Libra. The wild goats are Capricorn. The moon for the seasons, and the sun knows its place in the setting, is openly talking about the sun and the moon. The lions roar after their prey are Leo. Psalm 147. He gives to the beast its food, and to the young ravens which cry. He does not delight in the strength of the horse. He does not take pleasure in the legs of a man. He makes peace in your borders. He satisfies you with the finest of the wheat. He gives snow like wool. Well, the ravens are the constellation Corvus. The horse is Sagittarius. The man is Aquarius. The wheat is Virgo, the lady with the wheat stalk, and the wool comes from sheep or Aries. You see how this all works together when you understand the key words?
Yeah, I'm starting to question. Like, I got to go back and read everything too and look at it from a different perspective. It makes you kind of wonder, you know, like that different perspective too. I'm curious to know, like, I'm seeing that these are being described in a sequence. I don't know the zodiac off by heart enough to know if this is following in sequence to the houses as well, or are they all over the place? Like as it's progressing,
so a lot of the times they'll be talking about neighboring signs and cross signs, like I showed you in the Mount of Olives passage.
Yeah. Okay. So there's commonalities in that too. You'll be able to pick that out because you know they might have to.
Right. But
Read a book.
sometimes they'll go every other sign.
Okay.
Sometimes they'll go back and forth. Sometimes they'll talk about like in Revelation 4:7, where they'll talk about the 4 fixed signs. You know, it's not always across and next to it. You have to really understand the patterns and find the patterns and why it was done
Yeah.
this way.
So like are the patterns the same is what I'm saying though? Once you're able to establish the code,
They're
and
all
then you
different.
they're all different. Okay.
They're all different. The horse is Sagittarius, the man are Aquarius. Those are 2 signs apart. The wheat is Virgo, and the wolf from the sheep are Aries. That's 5 signs apart. So there's no pattern there.
Okay.
But nonetheless, you can't deny that in the 4 passages, there's 4 constellations.
Mm-hmm. That all comes down to knowledge and how do you know that and blah blah blah. And then you mentioned
Which takes a
Sumerian.
while, believe me.
Yeah, you're Sumerian, and then you go back. Yeah, like so, it's interesting.
How these are answers to the beginning. How Jesus was able to heal the blind. Okay, remember the story about how the blind man comes up to him and he touches him on the eyes.
Mm-hmm.
He touches him on the eyes, and then suddenly the man can see. But the sun does the same thing. Like right now, it's dark outside. I have no sight. I'm blind.
Mm-hmm.
But when the sun comes up in the morning and touches my eyes, I'm given the gift of sight again. How he walked on water.
Uh-huh.
How he walked on water. Jesus supposedly walked on water, but the sun does that too. All you got to do is look at a sunset over a lake.
And then
All you got to do.
Oh,
See how the sun walks on water.
I see where you're going. Yeah.
How he
And then
turned
dead
water,
for 3 days, it just doesn't move, right? Yeah.
how he turned water into wine. So the reason God is considered a man and Mother Earth is considered a woman has to do with one thing only. It has to do with God's sacred fluid, the rain. Okay? In Hebrew, the word for rain is shemen. We get the word semen from it. It's the sacred fluid. So what happens is God's sacred fluid comes down onto Mother Earth and then impregnates her, and from her belly, food, vegetations, trees, plants, things grow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So what happens is you have Taurus now, right? April showers bring May flowers when you put the plow on the bull and you plant.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So that's what you do. And then it rains and it rains and it rains. And then in September, you pull the grapes and you smash them turn them into wine. That's how you turn God's water originally and
Into
the seed
wine. Mm-hmm.
into wine.
Interesting.
It's a process.
So it's a process that's not done instantaneously like a parlor trick at a
It's not a parlor
dinner
trick.
table.
Nobody ever turned water into wine. This is a process.
I understand that. Yeah,
This all has to do with the Farmer's Almanac, basically. Why he had 12 disciples, we went over that. Remember, Judas represents Scorpio because he's the betrayer.
So the 12 zodiacs, yeah. Or signs of the zodiac.
Why he was betrayed with a kiss by Judas, we went over that. Why he was dead for 3 days, we went over that.
So that's just the cycle as the sun is moving through.
This is
that makes sense. Yeah.
So Jesus is an astrotheological allegory for the sun. He's a sun god. And every story in the Bible, okay, in the Old Testament and the New Testament leading up to Jesus, okay, is literally just different ways of telling the same story. I'm going to keep going and show you more, okay?
Yeah, no worries.
Let's do the book of Matthew. Let's do the whole book of Matthew. So you guys are still probably going, oh, he's just cherry picking verses. I'm confused, but I don't think this is right. Let me show you. I put the zodiac on the left, and the red rings that I have in there are so you could follow along. Okay. Matthew 3:2, repent of your sins and turn to God, for the kingdom of heaven is near. Now, each gospel begins at one of the 4 major points of the zodiac and ends at one of them as well. The 2 solstices and the 2 equinoxes, when connected, form a cross. This is known as the cross of God's sun. The kingdom of heaven is Leo, whose ruling planet is the sun. This is the only sign that the sun rules over. Okay? Here, this is the firmament between Cancer and Leo. You see the dividing lines? They're not really dividing lines in the heaven, but those are what's known as the firmament. It keeps one sign from spilling over into another. In the Bible, it says they will not transgress one another. So it's never going to go from Capricorn to Gemini to Leo. It's going to go Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces, Aries, Taurus. Always. He will always do that. Now, the next passage, Matthew 3:4. John's clothes were woven from coarse camel hair, and he wore a leather belt around his waist. For food, he ate locusts and wild honey. Well, why is he wearing camel hair clothing in the desert? And why is he eating locusts? Okay, I'm going to superimpose the Vitruvian Man onto the zodiac, and we can make sense of that. To be honest, it didn't have to be the Vitruvian Man. I just picked it because it was elegant. I could have really just picked anything.
Okay.
Any picture of a man. So I could show you how this works. Cancer being the head is why he eats the wild honey. Get it? Because the head is in Cancer, the mouth is in Cancer, the beehive cluster is in Cancer, so he's eating the honey. Now, Leviticus 11, what's clean and unclean to eat? All flying insects that walk on all fours are to be regarded as unclean by you. There are, however, some flying insects that walk on all fours that you may eat. Of those that have jointed legs for hopping on the ground. Of these, you may eat any kind of locust. There it is, locust.
Okay.
Katydid, cricket, or grasshopper. So we answered the two weird parts. But now, what about the belt and the camel hair? A little lower down on the body is the clothes made out of camel hair. This is where his arms and chest would be. You see, in Gemini. The head was in Cancer, the arms and the chest would be in Gemini, so that's where you wear the clothes. Camel hair. There's a constellation called Camelopardalis, which is in Gemini. That's where the camel comes from. So right now you have the head and the upper body so far. A little lower is Taurus, which is the midsection, okay? Which is where he would wear the belt. Now, Taurus represents the bull, and the female is the cow. The cow is where you get the leather. Now, regarding the belt, Orion's belt sits between Taurus and Gemini. So next would be the baptism. Now, how are we going from the beginning of Leo, okay, to a water sign to signify the baptism? You would go across the zodiac. Cross signs, as they are known, are the signs of opposite location. For example, Aries and Libra are cross signs. This is very important. The signs' two most important signs in astrology are its neighboring sign and its cross sign. This is encoded in the book as well. So we're in Leo, right? We're at the firmament of Leo and Cancer. The cross sign is the firmament of Capricorn and Aquarius. It borders Aquarius, Aquarius being the water. That's why the baptism is there. You have the man with the water pitcher in Aquarius, which is personified as John the Baptist in the story. It's important to know, too, that John the Baptist and Jesus are exactly 6 months apart. When you think about the fact that Jesus is born on December 25th, I'm not going to argue with anybody about whether he was born on September 11th, 3 AD, or whenever people think he was born, okay? This is the science behind the fable, the story of the Bible, okay? So he's born on December 25th, and he dies on December 21st, which is the winter solstice. He's betrayed in Scorpio, okay? In the story, he dies after the last Passover, or the Last Supper, which was a Passover dinner. So that's Aries. But that's the story. This is the astrology behind the story. And this is what makes up the story. Okay? When you think about the fact that Jesus is born on December 25th and rises a degree a day, then that must mean that John the Baptist is born on June 24th and decreases a degree a day. This is why in John 3:30, John says, he must increase, but I must decrease. Well, how do you know that? Because the Catholic Church set St. John's Day for June 24th. You can look it up. That's exactly 6 months to the day of the birthday of Jesus. So basically, if John is right there, okay, one increases while the other decreases if they're 6 months apart. Do you see how that works?
Kind of.
Imagine the sun being on this wheel. It's climbing to the top. When it hits Cancer, it starts climbing down a degree a day, like the sun does.
Right.
Okay, so now if they're 6 months apart, they're literally opposing signs.
Right.
So one goes up, the other has to go down.
Okay.
That's why John says he must increase, but I must decrease. Okay. Now the next story is the temptation of Jesus. So we're going back to the Cancer Leo firmament of July 24th. This is simple. The devil tempts him for 40 days. So you just count 40 days. It's a calendar. July 24th takes you to September 2nd. That's right in the middle of Virgo. The lady with the wheat stalk, the bread, everything. What is the very next passage in the Bible? Matthew 4:3. If you are the Son of God, tell these stones to become loaves of bread. Here we see the mention of the bread, which tells you that the sun is now in Virgo. The next passage, Matthew 15:17 and 22. I did not come to abolish the law, and if you are even angry with someone, you are subject to judgment. The law and the judgment is Libra, the scales, right? So you go from Virgo to Libra. Those are connecting signs, okay? Matthew 7:9-10. If your children ask for a loaf of bread, you give them a stone instead. Once again, it goes back to Virgo. Matthew 7:15-16. Beware of false prophets who comes disguised as harmless sheep. And can you pick grapes from the thorn bushes? The sheep are the rams in Aries, and the grapes are in Libra. Those are opposing signs. Moving along, Matthew 13. Later that same day, Jesus left the house and sat beside the lake. The story now moves from Libra to the barrier between Aquarius and Pisces, as he's right beside the lake or the two water signs. Its cross sign, Aquarius and Pisces. Okay, its cross sign is the Leo-Virgo firmament. As it's across from Virgo, the wheat stalk, the grains. Isn't it ironic that Jesus' next parables are the wheat in the weeds, the mustard seed, and the yeast, all having to do with Virgo, the lady with the wheat stalk? So moving right along, next is the fishing net parable. So we were just in Leo and Virgo. So now we go back across to Aquarius and Pisces. Why? Because the fishing net parable. The fish are in Pisces, the two fish. Do you see how this works? I know that you're not catching it all because this is new to you, but do you see how this is literally just following the zodiac?
Yeah, I'm starting to see. I'm understanding how the words translate through the zodiac, and how what's being described is, like, as you say, star stories. Is that what you said? What was the word you used? Star stories or something. I like that.
Well, what do you think so far?
Well, I think it's fascinating. I think it's an interesting perspective on the Bible. For me, I do various studies on interpretation of what Bible passages mean, and I can understand that whole defense when it says you just cherry picked it and things like that. Without giving away the segment at the end, will kind of make sense that we're on the same page in that respect. And this is, for me, believe it or not, and I'm actually surprised that this is a perspective that I never once considered, and it's making sense to me. So I'm intently listening.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Because you're a private investigator. You deal.
Yeah, so investigation for me makes sense in the puzzles and the pieces and the association. I also understand the people and interpretation. So the questions that I have, I'm not asking questions because I don't want to interrupt you, and I feel like you're going to answer my questions by the end. But I'm starting to question, how did we misinterpret this when you've just explained it so clearly that it makes sense now? Why introduce the man? So I'm just trying to get. I don't want to segue into a conspiracy yet, but maybe.
No, don't worry. I'm going to get into that.
Maybe. Okay. Perfect. So yeah,
I will. We have to take a break in a few, though, don't we?
Well, we don't have to unless you want to.
I just need to use the bathroom, so if we could.
Okay. If you want, well, let's. You want to take it right now?
Yeah, let's take it right. Well, actually, no. Let me finish Matthew, and then we'll take it. I just need another 2-3 minutes.
Okay.
Gemini is the sign of the two men, technically twins. However, there's just a short mention of brothers in the next passage. He's just the carpenter's son, and we know Mary, his mother, and his brothers, James, Joseph, Simon, and Judas. That's Gemini.
Okay.
Look at what Gemini also is. It's the firmament between Gemini and Cancer. Okay. If you follow that across the zodiac, that takes you to Sagittarius, Capricorn border. Do you know what day that is?
Not off the top of my head, no.
Sagittarius is the border is the last day of Sagittarius. That's December 21st. That's the day of death, remember?
So the solstice. Yeah. Okay.
Remember that? Well, what's the very next thing that happens? It's the death of John the Baptist. So it's right on time. As I mentioned before, the death comes at the end of Sagittarius. Right. The firmament of Sagittarius, Capricorn, and Gemini, Cancer are opposing signs. So I added this just for a little flair, but let's take a sentence which sounds like it could be in the Bible but isn't. So I can illustrate for people who aren't on board 100% yet how this basically works. If I said the rulers were divided between war and love and split the land in half, you could view that as a biblical translation. You could view that as a literal translation. However, the ruling planet of Aries is Mars, who's the god of war. The ruling planet of Libra is Venus, who is the goddess of love. There is your war and love. And if you connect it in the middle, like you see, I split the zodiac or the land in half. These are the metaphors. This is how it works. They're deeply encoded metaphors, and all you need is a simple codex, a simple key to decode it. Notice, I'm not using apologetics or any type of interpretation other than the 12 signs and the constellations they knew about at the time. Notice that. I'm literally only using that to decode this whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Matthew 14, 17, and 32. But we only have 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. The bread and the fish are opposing signs. That's Virgo, the bread, and Pisces, the fish. Pisces, Jesus feeds the masses with 2 fish. So the 2 fish are Pisces. Why is it 5 loaves of bread, though? Well, the year starts in Aries. If you count 5 signs from Aries, you get Virgo. Okay, so that's why. Then this is the cross of God's sun. When you combine the solstices and the equinoxes, this is what it gets, okay? This is what it looks like. It's the cross. Mm-hmm. We were just in Virgo. Now next is Libra, which is law and wine, remember? What do we get now from Jesus? The story of the temple tax, the unforgiving debtor, divorce and marriage, and the parable of the vineyard worker. There's your law, and there's your wine, okay? Next is Scorpio, the betrayer. This is where Judas betrays Jesus with the kiss. So we were just in Virgo, then Libra, then Scorpio, and next comes Sagittarius, which is the day of death, right? This is where Jesus is crucified on the cross. He remains dead for 3 days, like the sun does, then rises on December 25th, the resurrection. So I think we could take a quick pause right now, if that's okay.
Yeah, we can actually do that. So I'll read my little blurb here, and then we'll head back. So it's a 5-minute break. So if you're listening to the, so we'll pause right here, and we'll continue after a message from our sponsors. And if you are listening to this audio only version, head over to youtube.com/the Experiencer Support Association, and you will see the video that goes with this audio. Remember, you are listening to Beyond the Tinfoil Hat, a podcast by the Experiencer Support Association, and we will be right back.
It's your business. It's your property. Your assets are worth protecting. Blacklight Investigative and Surveillance Services specializes in patrolling and inspecting residential or commercial property against fire, theft, vandalism, terrorism, and illegal activity. People and buildings are monitored to prevent crime. Keep your property, your people, and your assets safe from threat. Our elite staff are dual licensed private investigators and security guards. Blacklight Investigative and Surveillance Services. Go to blacklightiss.com.
The same thing that draws aliens to our planet is the same thing that draws us to others. Exploration, curiosity, sustainability of life. That's why we go. It would make sense as to why they're visiting here.
Travis! Quit playing around, man. Get back here. Travis!
The last thing I remember was this numbing shock. Stunning sort of a feeling. Very powerful.
Get away from me!
I was just out of my mind with fear, just screaming the whole time.
It's been theorized that aliens prefer remote areas because they don't want to attract attention. Whatever it is that they're doing, they would want to do that in a less populated area. There are multiple accounts of the same thing from people from all over the world. People that do not know each other, do not live in the same cultures, and they're all looking up, they're all seeing things in the sky. So it would be naive of us to think that we're alone.
Ryan is one of Canada's leading new UFO investigators. He conducts and oversees UFO investigations on a constant basis and was really taken by his research. He's compiled a tremendous amount of data regarding UFOs in Canada. And just as interesting, he really goes over how UFO investigations are done and what are some of the mistakes that people make when they submit evidence. Note for starters, don't edit your videos or photos before you send them. If you want to hear more follow-up conversation between Ryan and myself, you can go to richardolanmembers.com, where we have a candid conversation on ufology, the paranormal, and more. And remember, while we learn and grow and search for the truth, let's be good to each other.
Welcome to the Observation Deck, a state-of-the-art, one-of-a-kind virtual platform that takes video conferencing to the next level. by using avatars to navigate a campus, just like you would in real life. First, you install the application and design your very own unique avatar. Then you're free to explore the various areas of the campus at any time from anywhere. There's so many areas and activities to choose from on the platform. There's a 1,000-seat auditorium, a large expo hall, a movie theater, a nightclub, an art gallery, and even a beach. Come attend a conference or take a class or hear a lecture. Meet new friends and interact directly with presenters. It's all right here on the incredible Observation Deck campus. Where in the world will you go?
Have you ever wondered, or maybe just thought to yourself, if there were others just like you? You know, people with extraordinary abilities, psychogenic advancement, and perhaps unique intuitions. Maybe you just wondered if there were other people who experienced unimaginable, unexplained, or even unusual and paranormal events. Are there people who have more questions, more fears than answers? Well, you're not alone. You've never been alone. We believe you. Sign up for EA today by going to tesacan.org/EA. That's TESACAN.org/EA. Well, welcome back, everybody. You are listening to Beyond the Tinfoil Hat. Did you know we have a private community chat for members on our YouTube channel? If you become a member, you will get bonus content like exclusive videos, including bloopers, behind the scenes, and members-only Q&A. Also, if you've ever experienced any unexplained event involving the paranormal, UFOs, extraterrestrials, dogman, or any other paracryptid, head over to tesacan.org/reporting system. Let others who have already reported be that example that proves we are making a difference. If it wasn't for those reports, we would not be able to do what we do, and we thank you. I'm still here with Micah Dank. He has not returned to the slide, so I guess until he returns, I can say hello to our members. Let's see what we got here. So hello CC, hello Serena, good to see ya. Good vibes. Dave Percella, I see you. You're not a member, but you are a fellow supporter of Tessa. Hello. Okay. Good to see you. Lisa, good to see you. Leanne, good to see you. Leanne Corey, I see you there. And Micah, you're back. All right. I was just chatting in the audience until you were ready. You good to go, pal?
Yeah, where are we at with the audience? What do they think so far? Do they think I'm a lunatic?
Well, there is conversation going right now. Let me see if you want to conversation here. So Dave Percella, he says that St. John's Day supports the flat Earth model. Any comment on that?
I'm not gonna lie. I don't have one opinion on flat Earth. Okay. I don't think it's stupid. I don't think it's right. I don't think it's wrong. Yeah. Mm-hmm. For me, do you understand how my work with like decoding it this way and reading it this way, like changes things? It's like I don't want to overstate what I'm doing. You know, I don't want to come off as cocky. Yeah. But well, yeah, Dave, it goes more than that. Yeah, the true vine is also the spinous cord of the vagus nerve. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so we'll save the flat Earth talk for the end. Because we'll get into that. That's our last segment. I kind of got spoiled by me asking that, but I want to get into that at the end. So,
all right, so shall I continue?
Yeah, just continue, Dave. I shouldn't have shared that. You ruined it.
You didn't ruin anything. It's fine.
That's all good.
All right.
No, the surprise.
So now Jesus disappears at 12 and comes back at 30. This has been a subject of great debate, but the answer is actually quite simple. What happens to a young Jewish boy at the age of 12? He becomes bar mitzvahed. He becomes a man. So Jesus becomes a man and leaves to study. He starts his ministry at 30. But why? Well, the ancient Jewish religion has roots in Saturnalia worship from before it. That's why they wear the black cube on their head, because that's Saturn worship.
Saturn, yeah.
It's why their day of rest is the Saturday or the Saturn day. So why 30? Well, Saturnalia worshippers said that you were not allowed to become a teacher until Saturn came back to the point it was when you were born. And it just so happens Saturn takes 30 years to come back. So that's why he disappears at 12 and comes back as 30. Now, the sun tells the hour of the day. The moon tells the day of the month. The zodiac tells the month of the year. It's a perfect calendar. To me, that's creation. To me, that's a creator. That in our little neck of the woods, we have such a perfect calendar. Yes, it took thousands of years to figure out. Or we just sort of stumbled upon it 40,000 years ago. So maybe, honestly, it was given to us. You know, I'm not against disclosure. I think panspermia is one of the most reasonable thoughts of how we became who we are. You know, the ancient books talk about Enki and Enlil coming down and doing genetic modification on us. You know, I know that's a whole other rabbit hole that
I subscribe to that theory. I'm heavily involved with Sumerian mythology. The Tessa symbol is the Anu symbol for the sky god. So
right.
I'm quite versed with Sumerian, simply because as far as evidence goes with me as an investigator, I consider Sumerian mythology to be the source, which means it's the oldest documented religion that we have. So if I'm going to reference any civilization or religion as a piece of evidence for anything, it should be the oldest and the earliest, because everything in between.
Well, I'm very happy that you see that. I was going to save this
interpretation
till the end, but I've also broken down the Enuma Elish and the Epic of Gilgamesh with astrotheology. If you ever like to do another episode,
we'll have to get you back on for that. I would love that. I love that stuff. We don't get
it's the same stuff. This is why it's so important, is because when I got through a couple of books in the Bible, I was like, that's interesting. And then I was doing a podcast for some guy named Rex Bear, who's on the Leak Project. He's a pretty decent channel. He's a really wonderful guy.
I'm actually got asked to be on that show on March 4th. Yeah, he requested me, so that's kind of interesting. I'll be there soon.
Oh, he's great. Mention my name. Yeah. I've been on a show like 15, 20 times. Awesome. Every time he pushes me to. He's really the reason. He keeps pushing me to find new things like the Code of Hammurabi. And then when I started doing the Enuma Elish, the Epic of Gilgamesh, it was, so we have to do that again. But yeah, no, back to the point is that I think there was a creator. This is our creation. This is a creation this is like a fingerprint. Okay? This is a fingerprint of God. And to me, I'm not going to go into what I believe God is, because I believe we are both separate and not separate from God. But I will say is that I don't think humanity just showed up one day. We're what? 98, 99% the same as monkeys, and yet we're able to think about us thinking. And no other animal can do that. So let me just continue real quick.
Yep.
Continuing with the zodiac. Moses goes up to get the 10 Commandments, and when he comes down, he sees them worshiping a golden calf. What's more likely? The Jews got run out of Egypt. They couldn't even let the bread rise, which is why we have matzah to this day. They rushed to the desert with just the clothes on their back, but happened to carry enough gold between all of them, found welding equipment in the desert, and built a giant statue. Or the sun is the gold, and the calf is the bull of Taurus. They were worshiping the sun in Taurus, whereas now they're the Jews, the people of Aries. That's why he went up to get the law, to usher in the age of Aries. So he breaks the commandments, becoming the first lawbreaker because he broke the law. Now, Egyptian 125 chapter, Book of the Dead. The Declaration of Innocence before the gods of the tribunal. I only picked 3 here, but this is where the 10 Commandments come from. O swallower of shades, who came forth from Kernet, I have not slain people, becomes thou shalt not kill. O doubly evil one, who came forth from the Berserite gnome, I have not had intercourse with a married woman, thou shalt not covet your neighbor's wife. O he who prospers the common people, who came forth from Asiut, I have not cursed the God, thou shalt not take the Lord's name in vain. This is where the 10 Commandments come from. You're talking about finding lineage and liturgy from previous works,
Yeah.
you got to go to the Egyptians too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I consider the Catholic and Christian Bible the most recent version or adaptation of the same story, but
It is.
also
It's all solar worship.
when I compare that to Sumerian, being with the idea of that being the first, you could really, really, with a compare and contrast, understand how far and different it is from each other, and then everything else is kind of pieced together.
You
in
remember
between.
how in the I can't remember if it's the Enuma Elish or if it's the Epic of Gilgamesh. I think it's Gilgamesh,
Okay.
where she begs her father to send down the bull from heaven.
Yeah, that's Gilgamesh. That's Gilgamesh.
That's Taurus.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, Enkidu. So Enkidu, the big battle with that. Is there any? We're in a rabbit hole. I think we will have you back on another show for that. I'll book you. I'll book you as soon as we're done. I'll let you know what my next date is for availability, and then we'll go from there.
Sounds good. Okay.
Okay.
Now, the ancient Egyptians used to worship the sun in Taurus, hieroglyphs of the bull with the sun between its horns. Then the age of Taurus ends, and the Egyptians start to fade in population, but the Jews come up. They're the people of Aries. That's why they blow the ram's horn to the sky, because it's Aries, the ram.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Now, the Jews start to fade in numbers after Aries, and the Christians come up in Pisces. That's why they're shown as having the Jesus fish, as shown below. This is why Jesus is able to feed the masses with two fish. The two fish are Pisces. So Simon Peter, John 21, climbed back into the boat and dragged the net ashore. It was full of large fish, 153, but even with so many, the net was not torn. You see the Vesica Pisces to the left?
Mm-hmm.
You see the Jesus fish?
Yeah, right in the center. Yeah.
Right there. That's mathematical denomination is 247 over 153. So they knew this stuff in the day. They just encoded this in the same way that Dan Brown or I encode my novels.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically how it's done. Now, if you follow through, you'll see that after every major religion, after every sign, the people start to fade and a new religion comes up. Right? We are now in the age of Aquarius, which is why you're seeing so many attacks, because the elites are ruled by astrology. So you're seeing why there's so many attacks on Christianity. It's because their time is up and the Catholic Church knows it. It's the age of Aquarius. And look what happens right on schedule.
Mm-hmm.
One World Religion Headquarter.
That's a very good point, and that was brought in on cue. That's good. That was a good association of facts. I like that.
Okay, so look what happens. One World Religion Headquarters set to open next year in Jerusalem. Okay, Genesis 32:30. And Jacob called the name of the place Peniel, for I have seen God face to face, and my life is preserved. Well, if you look at the eye of Horus, which is right here, that's a sagittal cut to the right of the brain. So you take a cut of the brain like this, a sagittal cut, you open it up like this, you get that. The bridge row that has the number 7 on it, that's the corpus callosum. And right in the middle, you have the pineal gland. The pineal gland releases DMT into your body, which helps you dream. Okay? Now, in many Buddhist traditions, 49 days is the total mourning period, with prayers conducted every 7 days across 7 weeks. These Buddhists believe that rebirth takes place within 49 days after death. And it just so happens that the pineal gland becomes visible on the 49th day of gestation. So don't tell me that these ancients didn't know it. You know, the 153 fish, the 49 days. Don't tell me that the ancients had no way of figuring things out. Okay, but now I want to get into something that's a little bit better, because there's people who are terrified of this, and day in and day out, I explain this to them and get them out of the fear of hell. Flaming inferno.
Mm-hmm.
Hell is not a flaming inferno. First, we have to do this. How do we detect pain? With the nervous system.
Nervous system, yeah, okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The brain, the spinal cord, the nerve endings, the neurons. So let me ask you a question. When you die and you shed your body and you give up your ghost and your spirit goes elsewhere, and you don't have a nervous system to send messages to your brain to sense pain, how are you going to burn in a lake of fire? Fire is something in our dimension.
That's true.
You're not. The truth is, hell is a metaphor, and it's actually for winter. It's actually the opposite. The idea of a fiery pit where you burn for all eternity is ridiculous when you think about it logically. Hell is actually winter on Earth. Why?
Well, you can get frostbite or frostburn and stuff like that too.
It's
So maybe
cold,
the burn comes from the cold. Yeah.
and beautiful flowers and plants are dead. The trees shed their leaves and bear no fruit. It's freezing cold out. People tend to get sick more often. Dangerous animals, if they're not hibernating, are starving and scrounging for food. It's dangerous for humans. Now look at this. The Italian word for winter is inverno. Flip a letter, inferno, and pervert its meaning, you get the concept of hell. This picture is Dante Alighieri's The Divine Comedy. Satan's in the bottom level of hell. As you can see, it's frozen. Hell is frozen. Okay? Because his wings are flapping so hard that it's freezing everything over, and he's stuck up to his waist there. If you remember Dante Alighieri's The Divine Comedy, he's chewing on Brutus, Cassius, and Judas.
It's kind of interesting when you get that expression, when hell freezes over, but hell would be already frozen. So that'd be more so saying like when winter comes.
This goes into the idea that many people, what they do is they take a meaning of something, flip it slightly, and pervert the meaning with its opposite meaning.
Yeah, and we get
they get it with the swastika, and I'm going to show you that too.
Yep, understood.
Hold on a sec.
Yeah, no worries.
I'm not going to go into this. Satan and Lucifer. Let's talk about them. Satan does not exist. He's not a red devil with a tail and a pitchfork. In fact, the earliest paintings of him in the 900s, he was actually blue. That's where you get the Duke Blue Devils from. The Hebrew word for Satan is Hashatan, which literally translates to adversary. That's all it means. So in proper context, two competing sports teams are Satans to one another. Two UFC fighters are Satans to one another. That's all Satan means. Now, Lucifer, he is known as the light bringer. Genesis 1:3, and God said, let there be light. How can there be light without the light bearer? Lucifer is immediately mentioned in the Bible, if not by name, but by action and purpose. Lucifer is also known as the morning star. The morning star is also known as the planet Venus. The reasoning is that if you go out and you look at the sky just before the sunrise on the east, you will see a bright light directly above it. That's Venus. It announces the arrival of God's only begotten Son, the light of the world. Names given to him in church that people don't know any better. Lucifer is also known to have a pentagram. That's his symbol. Continuing with Lucifer as Venus, if you follow Earth and Venus's orbit around the sun in a year's time, they almost connect at 5 points. You connect that, you get the pentagram. This is what it would look like if you actually charted it. There's the pentagram. It's just Earth and Venus, almost connecting at 5 points.
That makes sense.
Okay? So, let me see what else we have.
So Dave Petrella commented, there is a lack of sunlight in hell, which brings cold, but the Earth star provides an alternate form of warmth at the same time. What do you think about that?
Well, yeah, they talk about what do they talk about? What do they always say in the Bible? They say there's going to be whipping and gnashing of teeth. Do you gnash your teeth in the summer, or do you gnash your teeth and chatter them in the winter?
In the winter, yeah, no, of course. Like I mean, I get it. I'm totally with you on that. I just can't believe I didn't put the two and two together before. It makes sense. There's a lot of boxes that were checked just by simply associating it in that way.
Now, I mentioned that Jesus is the son, but he's not the only son. Every story is a different way of talking about the son. Samson and Delilah. Okay? Samson, the root word, and if you can't read the Hebrew, that's fine. I'll read it for you. But Samson in Hebrew is Shimshon, which means little son. That's what Samson means, little son. Delilah, the root of Delilah is Lila, which means night. What happens to Samson or Shimshon? He gets his hair cut. He loses his powers. He goes blind. This is a metaphor for the night overtaking the day. That's what Samson and Delilah is. Okay? Now let's just do a couple more. Where did that just go? Okay, hold on. Let's just do a couple more. Jonah in the body of the whale. The Hebrew words are dag gadol, which translates to great giant fish. He's in it for 3 days. It's the 3 days you see recurring in the Bible over and over again. The sun walking sideways like the crab for 3 days. Daniel in the lion's den. It's a story revolving around two signs in astrology. Daniel the man, Aquarius, and the lions, which are Leo, the lion. The ruling planet of Leo is the sun. Abraham and Sarah. Abraham's name was Abram before he was made Abraham. His name was Abram, and he was made Abraham. I'll find it later. He was made Abraham after he almost sacrificed Isaac. Okay? He was stopped at the last minute by an angel. Now, again, these are just metaphors. These are just stories. But his name was Abram. And in fact, in one of the Jewish midrashim, which are like compendium stories, Abraham actually kills Isaac, and he's dead for 3 days before he comes back to life.
Right, killed his son. Yeah, okay. Killed the son. Yeah, okay.
So Abram is a combination of two words: Abba, which is father in Hebrew, and Ram, which means ram. Father, Ram. Father of the people of Aries. Abraham, the father of the Abrahamic religions. But Abraham actually goes back to Brahma. Abram, Brahma. Sarah goes back to Saraswati. It's influence from Hindus. Okay?
Okay.
So that's where that comes from. Now, Lot and Lot's wife in Sodom and Gomorrah. In the ancient times, people were paid in salt. It's where the word salary comes from. Salt. Why? Because it preserved the meat. And when you killed a cow and didn't eat it in one day, it would go bad. Salt kept it viable for longer. There was no refrigeration back then. Salt was the highest currency aside from gold and silver. So when she turned into a pile of salt, you have to think about it like her leaving Las Vegas, gambling, hookers, debauchery, turning back and turning into a pile of gold coins and money. Okay, so these are just metaphors, these stories. There's lots of brilliance in them if you don't read them literally. Now, this is interesting. There's a town in Israel called Megiddo, which a 3rd century church was found under another church. There's a town in Israel. So what they basically did is some guy put his foot through the floor and like almost fell through. And then when he pulled his foot out and they looked under it, they found like a whole other church completely buried under this church. It's one of the oldest churches known to man. It's from the 3rd century. In the center of the floor of the mosaic, boom, right there is the 2 fish, Pisces. See, they knew that Jesus was Pisces. He was the god of Pisces.
Right.
Okay. Megiddo is also the root word of the word Armageddon, which is where the rapture is supposed to begin. Okay. Now, I mentioned the swastika before. Remember, invert it and pervert it. All you got to do is mirror the image, and you get the swastika. This is the original. The swastika, if you read Wikipedia, for example, talks about its origins of ancient times, from ancient religions, and its peaceful meaning. Again, tweak it a little and pervert the meaning, and you get the modern-day peace we see that will never be reclaimed as a peaceful symbol. But it goes further than that. The swastika isn't Buddhist or Hindu, Babylonian or Syrian or Sumerian. It's actually astrology. This is the oldest swastika that we've ever found. It's 17,000 years old, and it's from the Ukraine. Now, if you take the North Star and you take a picture of it and the Big Dipper on the solstices and the equinox, you get this image. Yeah, that's where the swastika comes from. It's all astrology. Saturn discovered in 1610. That's what Google says. Really? They say Galileo discovered Saturn in 1610. What about the ancient Saturnalia festivals that we have books on? What about the ancient Saturnalia religion that the Jews are based off of?
Yeah, there's no, well, you got to remember that Wikipedia and Google aren't really the trusted sources of information, but for quick references.
100%. Listen, I'm down that rabbit hole with you too. Believe me, I don't like that either. But I just put this up here to prove a point.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Now, let's get into some interesting stuff. How does it apply? How do the rulers of the world use astrology? When do you kill John F. Kennedy? November 22nd, the handover date from Scorpio to Sagittarius. Scorpio being the betrayer, he was betrayed and dies in Sagittarius because the sun dies on December 21st. Okay, what's next?
Interesting.
That one. Why do they always crash the stock market in Libra? October 1907, October 24th, 1929, October 19th, 1987, October 13th, 1989, October 9th, 2002. Libra is the judge, the judgment, the just one. Referring to Jesus, that is. Our way of living is being judged in Libra. The sun is on its way down. Remember, it's judged in Libra, then it's betrayed in Scorpio, then it dies in Sagittarius. We're being judged in Libra. Now, coincidentally, on the other side, why are the largest point gains daily in Aries? It's because it's the beginning of the new year. The sun is on its way up instead of down like in Libra.
Right.
Aries and Aries and Libra are opposing signs.
So these points gains, that's stocks?
The largest point gains in the stock
Yeah.
ever.
Yeah. Okay. That's interesting.
They all happen there and here. If you look, just follow the list. These are the major stock crashes.
That's so weird for a pattern, you know. Like, I mean, I understand that the association of following the astrology to give you a calendar to calendar date to hold by or to establish things, but like that's a pretty interesting coincidence. So that's I find that fascinating that all those same things are happening at the same time. Now we're missing years though, so like I don't know the history of stock market crashes and things like that. And so has it are those the only times that has happened, or does it
These are the
happen every
major ones.
year? Just the major ones, but there's always a dip, I guess, around that time.
Sure,
as
there's
well?
mini dips for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Just like there's mini gains too.
Yeah.
But these are the largest gains.
Yeah. Interesting.
And if you notice, that shit happened right around the time of COVID.
Oh yeah, there's that's a rabbit hole that we're living in right now.
Oh, you were asking me before who is really controlling things. Now, at this point, would you agree that there is definitely encoded astrology in the Bible?
Yeah, no, I've always sensed some sort of astrological reference and explanation for the solar system in Bibles, and like I mean from the Bible. I never really bought it in the literal sense as people. So then that kind of was my deciding point when I was heavily involved in considering becoming a priest at one point in my early lives, and then I started questioning things, and that's when I started to see it not as it was written.
Well, let me
So,
show you this.
yeah.
Let me show you this. Roman Catholic Catechism 2116. All forms of divination are to be rejected. Recourse to Satan or demons, conjuring up the dead or other false practices falsely supposed to unveil the future. Consulting horoscopes, astrology, there it is. Palm reading, interpretation of omens and lots, the phenomena of clairvoyance, and recourse to mediums all conceal a desire for power over time, history, and in the last analysis, other human beings, as well as a wish to conciliate hidden powers. They contradict the honor, respect, and loving fear that we owe to God alone. Now, Abu Dawood, it is suggested that the Prophet Muhammad stated, whoever seeks knowledge from the stars is seeking one of the branches of witchcraft, that of which is inherently forbidden in Islam. So why does the Catholic Church and Islam, why do they ban astrology if it's so obviously embedded in the books? Unless they're actively trying to keep you from this information.
Well, yeah, because like the information still has to, like, the thing that I'm getting goosebumps about or associating in my brain here right now is I've always thought that with this disinformation there would have to still be things hidden in plain sight that made sense to, let's, quote unquote, the elites, because they exist in this realm as well. So this to me is evidence of that, suggesting that like it's misinterpreted to us, but they know the code and they're able to make sense of it. And now you know the code and you're explaining it to take it as it was meant to be, because those who could take the same book and look at it differently, but understand the true purpose of it. And there's a lot of that. You follow me?
I do.
All right.
But let me show you how it's deeply encoded in our history now.
Okay.
Have you heard of the Phoenix Suns, the basketball team?
Yes.
The Phoenix Suns. The Phoenix is the story that Christ the Son, a flaming form of life that dies and rises from his ashes. So the Phoenix is Christ. The Sun is also Christ. Now, what about the Phoenix women's team? The Phoenix Mercury. Mercury is the ruling planet of Virgo, the only woman sign. Okay? So they do enable this. Now, let me show you another one, too. 1990s movie Face Off starring Nicolas Cage and John Travolta. Well, what are their characters' names? Nicolas Cage's character's name is Castor Troy. His brother is Pollux Troy in the movie.
Okay.
Those are the names of Gemini. I've read them to you. What about Travolta? His name is Sean Archer. Well, the Archer is Sagittarius. That's the man with the bow and the arrow. That's the Archer. They're opposing signs on the zodiac.
Interesting.
So they encode this astrology and they expect you not to know it. Algol, also known as the Demon Star, has a long history of evil attached to it. In Batman Begins, the evil character's name is literally Ra's al Ghul.
Al Ghul, yeah.
Al Ghul or Ra's
Yeah.
al Ghul. Okay?
Yeah, yeah.
Remember this video, the 1990 song for the Cranberries, Zombie?
Yeah.
Here's Dolores O'Riordan, painted gold like the sun, and her headdress represents the rays of the sun, much like Jesus in the crown of thorns. But is it that? What's the very next scene after she's singing this? It's the sun on the cross with the little Sagittarius is ready to take her life. You see that?
I see it. I do see it.
Now, how can you interpret that in any other way?
Well, see, now we're getting into, you're listening to the music, you're listening to the words, and then you're also seeing these visual cues. So there's that propaganda, that symbolism, and music videos are notorious for those subliminal messages, even with halftime shows in the Super Bowl and things like that. Like, yeah,
Katy Perry's Dark Horse. Here we see the eye of Horus, the Illuminati symbol.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
700 sheep and goats were arranged in the shape of a syringe to encourage vaccinations. Why the sheep? Why the goats? The goat is Capricorn and the goat.
So that's what I'm trying to say is that while we miss these in plain sight because we're not really, quote unquote, awoke until that information is brought to us. I feel like this information is done deliberately to pass to the elites that would understand it. So it's kind of a nod to, not to us. It's not hidden from us. It's just a nod to those who understand it, so they know that.
Now, you're part of the UFO. You're part of the UFO community, right?
Indirectly, I am involved in the UFO community. I wouldn't necessarily.
So you might find this one interesting. Corey Good actually copied one of my messages.
Okay.
Variant Omicron. Draconis is Draco, the dragon they talk about in Revelations. The variant was Omicron Draconis. Okay. The tail starts in Sagittarius. Omicron variety was first announced in Sagittarius. What happens at the end of Sagittarius? December 21st, the day of death. You have to ask yourself why they always crash the stock markets in Libra. Why was the only dog to die during 9/11 named Sirius? It's all about the stars, people. It's what they teach about. And Corey Good took that.
And I shared it. Huh, interesting.
He shared it. Modern day things revolving astrology. Mermaids, a combination of the man sign and Aquarius, which is Aquarius, or the woman sign Virgo and the fish sign Pisces. Aquarius and Pisces are connecting signs. Virgo and Pisces are opposing signs. Bullfighting, bull riding. Aquarius the man and Taurus the bull. Jousting, 2 times Sagittarius. Lion taming. Aquarius the man and Leo the lion. Those are opposing signs. Fishing, Aquarius the man and Pisces the fish. Those are connecting signs. Virgo the woman and Pisces the fish. They are opposing signs. It's as above, so below. I don't need to do that. Now, homosexuality in the Bible. Okay. Everyone knows about Leviticus 18:22. However, is it really what is said there? The Greek word arsenokotai shows up in 2 different versions of the Bible in Greek, but was not translated to mean homosexual until 1946. In the 1800s, the German Bible said, "Man shall not lie with young boys as he does with a woman, for it is abomination." Leviticus 18:22, same with Leviticus 20:13, young boys. 1 Corinthians, the words arsenokotai, and it's important to mention that the Bible was written in Hebrew, but everyone at the time knew that if you were an intellect, you wrote and read in Greek. So 1 Corinthians becomes, boy molesters will not inherit the kingdom of God. If you were to grab a copy of Martin Luther's original German translation from 1534, they used the word Nabenschänder. Naben is a boy, and Schänder is molester. The first time homosexual appears in the German translation is in 1983. So now, these are all the books that I've already decoded with astrotheology. I'm going to leave this up for a minute so you can see it.
Gospel. Okay. I'm going to actually just I'm going to take us off the screen for a second so we can see the other ones there. Actually, since this is an audio podcast, I'll just read these out loud as well for the audio replay. So we got the Book of Matthew, the Book of Revelation, the Book of Enoch, Jubilees, Gospel of Thomas, Gospel of Mary Magdalene. You want to say that one there? How do you say that?
Melchizedek.
Okay, Gospel of Philip, Gospel of Judas, Secret Gospel of John, Book of Psalms, Gospel of Q, and then books not Bible related would be the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. Is that right? Yeah.
Yep.
The Enuma Elish.
Yep.
Epic of Gilgamesh, Code of Hammurabi. How do you say that?
Hammurabi.
Hammurabi, Quran, and the Egyptian Book of the Dead.
And the way I broke down the Bible tonight with you, all of these are that. Now, I just want to give you a teaser on the Quran. The 72 virgins, that's what they all do it for. That's what they all kill everyone for, the 72 virgins. There's a star called 70 Virginis, which borders Virgo. There's one virgin in Virgo, so that's 71. Plus the virgin you marry on Earth is 72. Those are the 72 virgins. It's all astrology.
Okay.
I also have a book series out that talks about this kind of stuff and goes deeper into. I went off on a couple tangents on some rabbit holes tonight.
Oh yeah, of course.
Right.
I went with you. Yeah.
My book series goes deep into that. I talk about gematria, etymology, numerology, astronomy, astrology, astrotheology, out-of-body experiences, the Akashic records, symbology, remote viewing, religious secrets, capstones of the pyramids, mystery school channelers, near-death experiences, DMT monitoring, lucid dreaming, acoustic levitation, physics, and quantum physics, psychotherapy, psychology, spiritual guides, and shared dreaming and crystal technology, conspiracies that not many people know about, corruption and secret societies. This is what my first book looks like. It's Into the Rabbit Hole, Micah Dank, Beneath the Veil. My email is intotherabbitholeseries@gmail.com. Now, you can reach out to me on Twitter at Real Mr. Dank, spell out Mr., or Micah Dank on Facebook and Instagram. Just follow me. I write a bunch of stuff. I also sell signed copies of the series.
So there is a link in the YouTube description for all the books that you have on Amazon. I found that earlier this morning.
Well, you can get them through Amazon, or you can get them signed through me, whatever you want to do. I have a lot of people that get them through me.
Yeah, no worries.
But I wanted to basically read this real quick. So essentially, the Bible is just a big farmer's almanac, survival guide, verbal astrological map that reads like a compilation of Grimm's fairy tales, basically giving the rundown of the growing season from start to finish and over again, with the final reward being open chakras and enlightenment. That's what one of my fans sent me, and that's what I like. Now, here's how I finish off my presentation. It's from a quote from John Dominic Crossan. My point, once again, is not that these ancient people told literal stories and we are now smart enough to take them symbolically, but that they told them symbolically and we're now dumb enough to take them literally.
Yeah. And that's what I was realizing too, as you were explaining it. And that's the thing, is it was written, and then passed on and told and interpreted and all that other stuff as well. So, okay, I have a few questions that I wrote down too. So now that we're done at that point, and thank you so much for sharing that. And I'm just trying to figure out what rabbit hole I want to go down to. So what about the Babylonian Shemesh? I remember seeing that in one of the slides. You skipped it, but you didn't mention it. But I was curious to know because when you were mentioning the little son, and then I saw the next slide that said Shemesh. So I was curious to know how that was connected.
Which one was it? Say that again.
The Babylonian god Shemesh. It was in one of your slides there.
No, I did skip over it. Okay.
Yeah.
Shemesh, right? That was the Babylonian god.
Okay. Yeah.
In Hebrew. Have you ever seen a menorah before?
Yeah.
Okay, so you know how there's 8 candles in the back and there's one in the front?
Yeah.
Okay, the one in the front that you light represents the sun. It gives light to all the other candles. The one in the front is called the Shemesh.
Interesting.
It's actually called the Shamash. Same root.
Okay, because that's represents
the sun.
Yeah, okay. Because I was just thinking Enlil and Enki and then Shemesh, like all the like that's so when we get into Gilgamesh and things like that, I think we'll cover that on the next episode. The other thing too, I was noticing too with Draco, from my understanding with Anu, that is also part of the Draconian constellation as well. I think.
Well, Draco, its tail goes from Aries to Sagittarius.
Right.
It actually goes longer than that. Draco's one of the biggest constellations in the sky.
So I don't know. I don't even know where to go from this. All right, you know what? Let's the other thing I want to talk to you about is completely sidebar, and you didn't mention any of it as well, but I hope we were going to lead into the Atlantis tech part as well when we were talking about crystallization, crystals and the energy. Is that something completely different?
The crystals in Atlantis?
Yeah, you well, I was mentioning
Edgar Casey.
I have not. I'm just pulling off from the bio that I was reading. In your bio. I don't know. See what he thinks about the map. Oh, okay. Hold on 1 second. Sorry. Don't worry about that. I'm just trying to think of other things that I read from your bio there that you thought would be interesting to cover. What Dave is mentioning here is Tessa has a symbol, and he's curious to know what you think of it. So I'm going to share my screen, and then we'll get your feedback on that because it might relate to what you got going on. And then we'll do our final segment, see where that goes, and call her a night. So this is on my screen here. This is a symbol that I found through some studies and an experience that I had in the past. We've been trying to interpret it with Dave Petrella being an astrologer. He has many interpretations on what this means and what it could be. So have you seen anything like this before? Any interpretation?
So I see the yin and the yang in the middle of the circle.
Mm-hmm.
I see the yin and the yang. I see the Celtic cross, or the Knights Templar cross, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
It's in red too. TAES, I don't know. You see the Star of David.
Mm-hmm. I can zoom in as well. Sorry here. No, maybe I can't zoom in.
It's okay. I can see it.
No.
So the center of the circle, okay, with the yin and the yang, the Star of David, okay,
Mm-hmm.
and the cross, that's all duality. That's what the center means. It's duality. It's male, feminine. Okay. It's the light and the dark. It's the male and the feminine. The Jewish cross is like this. This is the phallus. Okay. This is known as the spear. This is the rudimentary phallus symbol. This is the womb. This is the chalice. You put these two together, you get the Star of David. It's a hermaphrodite. It's the same thing as Baphomet. As if you've ever looked at a picture of Baphomet, Baphomet's like this. He's peaceful, right? Because he's doing this. Sometimes he does this. That means as above, so below. But usually he's just like this.
Mm-hmm.
You ever wonder why Baphomet has a nice pair of tits on him? It's because he's a duality.
Right.
Baphomet has a pair of breasts on him. He's a duality. He's
Right.
not the people. He's duality.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of symbolism with that too. I mean, here you go, the rabbit hole. There's rabbit holes after rabbit holes after rabbit holes. So okay, so let's start with our final segment, and we'll carry that. I'll change the topic, but it's going to be on point because we.
Hold on. Lockbeard, put that up.
You put okay, yeah. Let's throw this up. So he says, so does a stock market crash occur because astrology magic crap, or do the elite cause a stock market crash at a certain time because evil plans schedule?
You don't have to believe in astrology, or you don't even have to think that what I'm saying is true.
Mm-hmm.
But the elites do. Okay, this is one of the sciences in the Bible. The elites build their life around it. Okay, they constantly and I pointed out a few. I pointed out the music videos. I pointed out the basketball team. I pointed out the movie. The elites cause it to drop. They absolutely do. They do, and they always do it in the same time because They're ruled by the stars. It's as above, so below.
Mm-hmm.
Because they believe they're gods.
Could they be the original gods though? Just because the shadow government and all this other things we hear about?
Beyond
Could
shadow
that-
government at this point. It's beyond shadow
that?
government.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna bring in our final segment here, and then we'll kick off the night here. So this is a segment called "Sorry, Not Sorry." One second. Okay, so we kind of alluded to this earlier by some of the questions from the comments, but essentially, this is a social experiment that we've been doing all season so far. So the rules are: I'm going to ask you one question, and I'm going to time how long it takes you to answer it, and then after that, we're just going to talk about the the reason behind it, and then dive into a rabbit hole. So
your computer got really quiet. I couldn't hear what you just said. Your computer got really quiet.
Okay. Sorry about that. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's a little bit better.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm just going to ask you a question, and I'm going to time how long it takes you to answer, and then we're just going to have a conversation about this social experiment. Are you okay with that?
Yeah. Sure.
Okay. It's a silly question, but with all the knowledge and experience you have, with everything we just explained, to the best of your knowledge and belief, what shape is the Earth?
What shape?
What shape is the Earth?
I honestly don't care.
Well, that's a good answer. But what do you?
Can I tell you why I don't care? Can
I
tell you why I don't care? Because this is going to make a little more sense.
Yeah.
I'll tell you why I don't care. You see, even if you don't believe me, and if you're in the audience and you don't believe me on this, whatever, this at least shows patterns, and it shows things that go somewhere. It shows that there's malevolent people trying to keep information from us. Okay? This is incredibly important. Okay? I don't see how discovering if the Earth is flat or round changes anything on Earth.
I agree.
Does it? Does it affect anything?
No, I don't think so.
Does it affect anything?
No, but yet people. So the whole point of this is me trying to get a variance of what people think about the concept of that, because normally our guests, you would be the first one in this season to reference the Bible. So this is kind of an easy question for you in that sense, because the whole point is what I'm trying to convey and argue with some guests is the Bible. Sometimes in the UFO community, they use the Bible as evidence to interpret that the existence of paranormal and UFO activity and aliens and whatnot.
The Bible is not by any means a sense of a sort of authority.
No, of course not. Of course not. So that's what I'm trying to say, is that with the using this as an example, what I try to use with the flat Earth movement is like the ufology community always gets mad at that sense, but they're referencing the Bible as well as source of information. So what we have combined with what you've showed tonight and those two beliefs that I've been talking about in previous episodes, for those who've been listening, is three different interpretations of using items from this book, but it's being read differently in different perspectives. So it's still one book, it's still created, it's still used as law in some arguments. Where, I guess, in your opinion, what source would we trust if this Bible is being used to convey astrology, and you understand that? What else are we being, I don't know, try to make sense of it. What makes sense to you? What's the true source of information?
I think you have to go and find where the patterns are. You have to go and find where the patterns are, and it has to be an overwhelming amount of patterns. I didn't give you one example and tell you that that's the whole thing. I used one thing to decode the Bible tonight. I used the zodiac, and I used some constellations that they knew about at the time, like Draco and Acellus Borealis and all those.
So I'll give you. I'm actually kind of curious about this. So normally what I do is I read a passage from the Bible that's in this flat Earth book, that just to have the conversation on how that specific passage was used as a cherry pick. So I remember
Is
you
it the
saying
firmament
things.
one?
This is a firmament one, oddly enough, but the evidence or the fact that they're trying to prove through all these gospels here is that Earth is a dome. So by me reading this now, with me understanding astrology, so maybe you could interpret that differently. So what they had written down here, or according to Genesis 1:7, and God made the firmament and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament, and it was so. So they're
All right,
using
stop.
that. Yep.
Stop.
Go ahead.
The waters. What were the waters?
Well, I don't know. I'm just
The
trying
waters
to.
were Aquarius and Pisces,
Right. Okay.
right? What divides them? The firmament.
The firmament.
Is
Richie
one of them
mentioned.
not above the other?
Yeah, I would say so.
There you go.
Yeah. So with them using this passage to suggest that Earth is a dome, when in reality, according to you, it's used to you're interpreting it as astrology. Who's right and who's wrong? Because they're using the same passage to prove their point, but two different.
What did I tell you at the beginning, though? I said the Bible is 7 sciences. I'm only doing 1.
Yeah, no, I gotcha. So there's a deeper dive in interpretation and all that other too. So what is your the other one too is, hast thou with him spread out the sky which is strong as a molten looking glass? So I guess I don't know, Job 37:18. Anyways, it's not that I support the idea. What I'm trying to understand is why individuals trust this as a source of information, when evidently through this show and with assistance of you in your presentation, it's very clear that the information that's provided can be misunderstood, misinterpreted in many different ways. So, I mean, I'm trying to find the truth, because why was the Bible created in the first place? And this is also just like religion. The
Bible's not original either. I told you.
No, exactly. That's where I was going to go. This isn't the original interpretation of that, which is why I say always go back to the source. Like
each zodiac sign gives us a new set of stories. As I've shown.
So what is the true story according to you? If we were to go back, is it
it's
Sumerian?
The story of the sun.
Story of the
sun.
sun.
The science that I gave you.
Yeah.
Because when we do another one, you'll see how it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Astrotheology is the basis of it. Okay. This science, okay? We have machines that plow now, okay? But back in the day, they used the bull. So they had to look for the bull. Because what happens if you didn't see the bull, or if you missed the bull, you didn't plant in time, you weren't going to harvest at the end of the year, you were going to starve in winter. Like, this was a big deal. They didn't have supermarkets. They didn't have calendars. They didn't have phones. They couldn't tell the time. They didn't have weathermen to tell them it was going to snow the next day. This was a farmer's almanac.
No, I totally get that. So why create this book, which allegedly is used to suppress that original idea of thinking? How come it's not so obvious to us?
Because it could be read as a literal story too.
Right.
And if you read it as a literal story, it controls people. It controls people, and it keeps them in line from doing bad.
And do you believe that to be deliberate or accidental?
Yes,
because we're trying to interpret it on our own.
It's a control mechanism. Look, when I talk about Jesus, I talk about Jesus the same way that I would if I went 2,000 years into the past and told Greeks that Zeus wasn't real.
Yeah, because that's just their version.
Do you know what the Hebrew word for thunder is?
No.
It means voices. So they would hear thunder and they would think God was talking to them. Okay, this is the mindset these people had.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm just trying to understand what world we really in, right? Because that's understand the past and trying to project to the future. So you say we're in a cycle. How does that relate to where we are today? What is your current assessment of?
There's going to be a new world religion.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be a book, or maybe it'll be a book. We're too early to know. Okay, because literal Christianity didn't start really taking hold until after Constantine in 325 AD. Before then, Christians were known as Helio-Gnostics, and Helios in Greek means sun, and Gnosis means knowers. They were sun worshippers. They were open sun worshippers. Constantine's nephew, Julian the Apostate, wrote plenty of works trying to get people back to sun worship, because that's what they were. It was all pagan.
And then somewhere along the line, they decided to make a change.
Everything in
order to
history has
control.
either been Saturn worship or sun worship. Everything.
And so that's where we're heading now, is to worship the same sun, or a new sun, or a new set of, like, where are we going as far as religion goes? Because you mentioned like
A
Christianity.
one world religion. They're trying to put a one world religion. I don't know what that's going to look like yet.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to understand or
I'm
interpret.
just following the previous patterns to see where it could go. I'm obviously not a fortune teller, so I can't really.
No. But I mean,
no, I didn't mean that you insinuated that either.
Yeah, no, I get it. I'm just trying to have trying to project as well, because I often think into the future as well as the past. But I'm trying to. I do risk analysis for a living as well, so I'm trying to understand the moves ahead before the government kind of announces them and things like that too. And so far, I've been fairly accurate. That it's scary, and then I'm seeing this new world being created, but I'm having a hard time interpreting for what purpose, because there could be benefits, there could be cons. I mean, it really depends on who's in charge and who's doing what. But I definitely see evidence of the old world no longer existing, and a new world has to be created out of this no matter what. And the coincidence that I see is the switching into Aquarius, the ages and all that other stuff, aligning with revelations and the predictions and the end times. It's like all that lines up. And then if that lines up to currently, the thing that concerns me is that that's the end of this book. So this book has ended. We're now living in what happens after the prophecy, and something new would have to be written. So is there anything in history that shows that when the first religion ended and the new one started? Is there a pattern there that we could possibly see? Maybe now it's starting, or it may happen to let us know that when this new age is about to unfold.
It's going to be kind of hard for you to create a new world book and spread it through warmongering and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what all the other books were.
Yeah, I know. I'm just trying to imagine how, like, it kind of feels like we're living in a time when this was created, and then if that's obsolete, what's next? A better one, or no one, or whatever. It's getting pretty heavy.
Yeah.
But yeah. All right. We got some questions from the audience here. Aquarius is the age of man and also the age of transhumanism.
Yeah, that's what Yeah.
Okay, I would agree with that as well. Anything else? Lockbeard says, can one predict with what the elites are going to do by embracing astrology?
Can one?
That's a good question. Can one predict what the elites are going to do by embracing astrology? So I like that question. So, like, to add to that, what we have is you being able to understand the pattern up until now. So can you look further ahead to see when the next time something like this is going to happen using astrology, not as a fortune teller or a predictor or anything like that?
I mean, that goes into fortune telling. You can't really predict it's always kind of retroactive, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm. Well, I wouldn't say make a guess. I mean, like an educated guess based on the patterns. What pattern would be next chronologically if the pattern were to repeat itself today? Like, where are we in this cycle and what's next? Is it possible to figure that out?
I would have to look into it deeper.
Yeah, I kind of figured that'd be hard on the spot, but it'd be interesting to know, because then the only way you would be able to guarantee it is if you said it, you stated it, you made a post about it, time stamped it, wait till it happens, and then you can go back and say, hey, I said it then, right?
Right.
And that's I mean, we look at Nostradamus and all those other prophets and things like that too, and then we only realize that they were allegedly correct after the fact, but then there's a lot of things behind that.
Right.
All right. We'll just get a couple more comments in and then we'll wrap it in. CC says, new developments in our understanding of consciousness may lead to a new religion, or it's sometimes the exits already such as Hyperianism. Hyperion? I don't know. Any comment on that?
Not really sure.
Okay, no worries. All right, well then we'll just wrap it up, man. Thank you so much for being here. Once again, let everybody know how they can find you and where they can find your books and anything you got going on.
I'm on Twitter at Real Mr. Dank. I'm on Facebook and Instagram at Micah Dank. My book series is called Into the Rabbit Hole, where I go down so many different rabbit holes. But basically, that would be pretty much it. You can also reach out to me on social, and I'll send you signed copies. Or if you want to see more of my work, you can do that as well.
No. All right. Well, thank you so much, everybody. Have a great night, and we'll see you next Thursday. Have a good one. Either well. That's it, everybody. That is a wrap. That is the end of it all. Thank you for joining me tonight. I look forward to seeing you back next week, where we'll continue to have this conversation deep down into the rabbit hole in which we call the ultra spectrum. Thanks for joining us. I said that already. Oh well, fuck it. Either world.